Okay, continuing on with test 4 material, which is factoring. Number 47 says solve by factoring. So remember, the first thing you have to do when you solve by factoring is to make sure that it's equal to 0. So we will subtract 9 to get our equation equal to 0. And now you can disregard the equal 0 for now and just factor this trinomial like you normally would. Well, that's an AC method trinomial with a 2 in front, so we're thinking about factors of negative 18 whose sum is negative 7. 2 times negative 9, that's the negative 18, whose sum is the middle term, the negative 7. So what two numbers would that be? Well, it looks like it's going to be 9 and 2. My signs would be negative 9. So negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. Negative 9 plus 2 is a negative 7. So now we'll set up the factor by grouping problem. And I like to put the negative term first so that I keep the positive in the center. Group the first two, group the last two. The GCF from the first two is x. From the last two there is no GCF, so just bring out a 1. So the factoring answer is going to be 2x minus 9 times x plus 2, minus x plus 1, sorry, equals 0. So since we're solving by factoring, you can't stop here. You now need to set each factor equal to 0 so that we can find the x value that will solve that equation. Okay, so when I solve this first equation, I would add 9 and then divide by 2. So one of the answers to that equation is 9/2, and here I would subtract 1, and the other answer is negative 1. So write your answer in set notation. And if you wanted to check your answers, you could replace the x with each one of these separately, and they should be true. Okay, another solve by factoring problem. It is already equal to 0. That's great. So now we just need to factor using the techniques that we already know. We see a GCF of y, so we want to take that out. And now we're left with an easy trinomial that factors to y plus 8 times y plus 8. Factors of 64 that add to give you 16 are 8 and 8. Now set each factor equal to 0. Well, we don't need to duplicate factors, so we don't need to write that a second time. So we'll subtract 8. One of the answers is negative 8, and the other answer, this has a variable, so this is an answer, is 0. So the two answers are 0 and negative 8. Okay, 49 says find the x-intercepts of the graph of the equation. Recall from test 1 that to be an x-intercept, the y value must be equal to 0. So if I replace the y with 0, you'll notice I just have a factoring equation that needs to be solved, just like we did in 48 and 47. So it sometimes makes us feel a little better if we write it the other way around with the 0 on the right. If you want to, you can. They're both the same. Factor out the GCF of 4x. That's all the factoring you can do. Set each factor to 0. Here you'll subtract 1. Here you'll divide by 4. It has a variable. It is an answer. Okay, now these are x-intercepts. X-intercepts are points. Remember, the points are x comma y. So when x is 0, y is 0. When x is negative 1, y is also 0. And those are your two x-intercepts. Number 50 begins the geometry review portion of the exam review. Find the measure of the requested angles. the complement of 71 degrees. Remember, complement means they sum to 90. So what it's saying is, what angle, when you add it with 71, gives you 90 degrees? Well, 90 minus 71 is 19 degrees. So that's just knowing the definition of complement means that they sum to 90. Supplement means two angles that sum to 180. So what we want to do is find, well, what angle when I add it to 17 will give me 180 degrees? So 180 minus 17 gives you 163 degrees. Okay, problem number 51. Part of your similarity statement was left off here. It should be triangle ABC is similar to triangle ADE. ADE. Okay, so the first thing I would do is fill in the information they gave me. They said AB was 14, AC was 16, CE is 10, find BD. Okay, since triangles are similar, remember that we can use the technique of setting up a proportion. So I'm going to set this up to be triangle AB, or side AB to side AD, is equal to side AC to side AE. So if I think about in terms of the sides and then substitute in the values, sometimes it's a little bit easier. Okay, so small triangle to large triangle, small triangle to large triangle. Okay, so AB is 14, AC is 16, AE, well, that means all of this, so that would be 16 plus 10, which is 26. And AD is all of this side. Well, just like we did on the other side, we added the two, and they were like terms, so we just combined them to be 26. Well, we're going to add the 14 and the x as well. The difference is they're not like terms, so it's just going to be x plus 14. We did the same thing. We added these two pieces on this side, and we added these two pieces on that side. The difference was that these were like terms, and these are not. Now you have a proportion, so just cross multiply and solve. So 16 times x plus 14 equals 14 times 26. Well, on this left side, we're going to distribute. So 16x plus 224 equals, and here we're going to multiply, 364. And once you've done that, it's a fairly simple equation to solve. We'll subtract 224 from both sides. 16x equals 140. Divide by 16. It doesn't divide evenly, and since we're dealing with measurements, don't put it in fraction form. Just go ahead and leave it in decimal form. So this would be 8.75. Since they didn't give us a unit of measure, put units. And make sure you go back and answer the question. BD is x, so BD is equal to 8.75 units.